What is up, fam? Just wanted to jump on here and give you a brief FYI. I am doing a leadership investment, is what I'm calling it. It's a teaching with our staff and leadership that I've been working on a while. And what I've decided to do is to share it on podcasts and other platforms so that I think it'll bless you, your leadership, because we're all leading somebody or misleading somebody. And so I think it'll bless you and encourage you, and you'll get clarity on where we're going and why as a church, because it's challenging our leaders, encouraging us. The best is yet to come, guys. God is moving in this church and we are going to see some amazing things. And I just want you to have clarity. So I think it will encourage you, give you some leadership wisdom that you can apply in whatever you're leading, wherever you're leading, from home and beyond. And you can get a good taste of what we're doing at Catalyst, because the best is yet to come, family. I love y'all. Check it out. Hope it blesses you. See you soon. So I'm going to jump right in. I want to talk about a culture of consistent communication. Consistent communication. I want you to know we've grown in this so much. Like I have, it's been amazing. I'm not talking about this because we're doing bad. I'm talking in this because I want us to continue to focus on it and continue to expand, me included. Our church is growing. I want you to, this is straight up. You want to talk about all the small things and everything? There's a one-liner to encapsulate it all. Our church is growing because our communication is growing. I want you to know that. Our church is growing because we cannot stop, y'all, because you have to grow it at every level of growth. One thing that Todd told me last meeting, he said, everything you do changes and expands, and so does communication at every level of growth. Not just every several hundred, every 10 to 15, especially in kids ministry. Our communication has to grow. It has to keep growing for us to be able to keep people together, moving forward, and fighting for unity is communicating consistently. I want to read you some scripture. I like to saturate everything in scripture because this is all biblical leadership. Corporate America comes from scripture. It started there, not in American culture. John 15:4, abide in me and I in you. Jesus said, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in the vine. The word abide or remain, depending on the translation, means a stable, continuing consistency. So abide isn't just about pressing on and flying and surviving. It's about consistency. When he says abide in me, he says stable, consistent, consistency. That word there is so deep. It is not just about, keep putting one foot in front of the other. If you can't walk, if you can't crawl, if you can crawl, you can walk. No, it's about consistency. It's about stability. It's about doing it the right way. Abide in me, Jesus said, and I in you. And as a branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide, unless you're stable and consistent in me. Instead, Paul says to a church at Ephesus, I want you to know about Ephesus. Context of Ephesus, very diverse, growing city like Carrollton and what we're doing at Catalyst. Very much a growing church, a lot of good problems because of the diversity and controversy in a diverse city. It was like the Atlanta of its time. And so instead, Paul says to the church, it works now, it still works. We will speak the truth in love, growing in every way more and more like Christ, who is the head of the body, the church. You cannot speak the truth without love, and you cannot speak love without truth. It is the truth in love. The truth in love. So there is a lot of superficial surface communities, churches, businesses, families, marriages that don't speak the truth or don't speak love. You got to do both. And so you got to speak the truth in love. And so people are always telling me, why don't you talk about this more? Because I want a deep community, not a superficial. We're not shooting and we're not a superficial community. I'm not talking about symptoms. I don't preach about symptoms. I preach about real issues. And so to do that, we have to build a culture where we speak the truth and love in every part of our church. So we have to speak both. Ephesians 4, same church he's talking to. Therefore, each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully, directly. Remember, we talk a lot now about direct conversations, directly to your neighbor. For we are all members of one body. He just gave context. He's talking about talking to church people there. So when he says we put off falsehood and speak truthfully and directly to your neighbor, he's not talking about the person that don't go to church and the person that don't know Jesus. Because he follows that up. What comes after a one-liner is very important. It's actually the most important. It puts context. For we are all members of one body. He's talking about talking to your fellow church person, your brother, your sister. And so he says we got to speak directly to the people inside. You know who Jesus spoke directly to? Religious people. We're always preaching what Jesus preached to people inside. We preach it to the people outside. And so Paul very clearly says we are speaking directly to the people that we do life in church and ministry with. We cannot hold back. Consistent communication. If you do the right thing, King Solomon, who is one of the most successful men to ever walk the face of the earth, top 20 for sure. If you do the right thing, he says, honesty will be your guide. If you do the right thing, honesty will be your guide. But if you are crooked, you will be trapped by your own dishonesty, holding back and withholding when you shouldn't, from whom you shouldn't. People you do life with is dishonest. I want to make no mistake about it. What I believe and who we are as a church. If you hold back or withhold from people you do life with and shouldn't, it is dishonesty. It is fear, and insecurity is not leadership. And so we have to be consistent. We have to lead together the same way. One of my favorites, John says about Jesus, says the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son who came from the Father. And it says, what about him? He was full of grace and truth. Grace and truth. Not grace, not truth. Grace and truth. So you say we got to say the hard things. We got to do the hard moves. We got to say the honest things in love. But we have to say them as we lead this church forward. So there is a difference. There is a difference between talking and communicating. There's a difference, and I want to give you the difference between talking and communicating. The goal of talking is to say what I need to say. The goal of communicating is for others to hear what they need to hear. I'm going to say that again because the heart and the goal of talking and communicating are two different things. The goal of talking is to say what I need to say. The goal of communicating is for others to hear what they need to hear. So what does communicating consistently look like in our church, in your leadership, in your life? Because this applies to everything. A lot of people think that's why this Vision Month I'm going to preach it to everybody's life, because how you run a church is how you run your life, it's how you run your marriage, how you run your family. They cross all lines. How you start your business. Look at Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A they do amazing things right that Burger King doesn't. Burger King, they don't have much better food than a lot of fast foods. They have a lot more people. We went to Chick-fil-A last week for lunch. Place was packed. Burger King ain't packed. It's the business. It's the way they lead. It's their leaderships, how they invest in their leaders. Same here. We can have all the best content and still have 200 people or less 5 years from now.
Expectations.
It's all in how we lead and being clear. And I'm going to show you. And so I want you to see what it looks like. Same in your family. Your marriage cannot grow much, or it can grow 2 inches in 10 years, or it can grow leaps and bounds, all depending on how you lead. And doing the hard things, not just the gentle, grace and truth. Not just grace, not just truth. And so what does communicating consistently look like in your church or leadership, our church, your leadership in your life? I got some things. Communicating consistently requires being prepared anytime you're leading anything. And this is big, and I want to share with you how I do some things because I think it'll help you. Make sure you plan. I mean, a good plan. Put thought into it. This is why we delegate, so we can. Plan everything in meetings or with people, lunch meeting, everything. Make sure everything is said, addressed, and decided on that needs to be. Not just, in anything. 10:15. You should not come to 10:15 thinking about when we're about to do 10:15, what you're going to say, who you're going to thank. You should think about that stuff today, tomorrow, through Thursday. 10:15. Me at 9 a.m. When you saw anybody that's been at 9 a.m. and see me cast vision to the band, short and sweet, right? Seems like I just shoot that out of my butt. I do not. I think about that all week. I think about it all week. Matter of fact, I finalize it Saturday. Sometimes I change it all on Sunday mornings because I'm constantly thinking about what can I feed this band and this tech team, because the same way preaching drives the platform, we are a worship culture, so worship drives the culture, not just preaching. I don't just poop that out because I'm busy. I have to think about it. Like, you have to be prepared for anything that you are leading, or your leadership is required in anything. You have to prepare. So mid-service, any part, pre-service, any part of what you do, you should be thinking about it all week. And I'm going to teach you guys going forward. My next step with all of you that are communicating is to not memorize, to internalize. I'm going to show you how I preach my messages. There's a difference. Internalize. I'm going to show you how I do that. My messages are already here. I just look at my notes to keep, when I get off track or crack jokes, to keep myself flowing forward. But at first, you just got to have less material, or because you can't remember. If it's too much, it means you have too much to internalize. We have to internalize because you feel like a robot. That's why I'm big on not having phones and notes. This is because when you memorize, you're robotic. You're not yourself. When you internalize, what changed my preaching a few years back is I began to just like my preaching. When I'm done and a message ready to preach, I got about 5 lines on the entire set of notes. It's all in here and here. And so anything we do, Haven was amazing yesterday. Did you notice towards the end, she started relying on her phone? It messed her up. She already had it in here. She just didn't trust that she had it. It's the same way with mid-service, pre-service, speaking before a song. Anything, you should be thinking about it all week. Doesn't mean you're going to decide on it. It means you're constantly thinking, because we have to be consistent communicators to keep this fire going. And so we have to be prepared. Wrap-ups, check-ins here. You should come ready, not just think while somebody's talking, what do I need to tell everybody? You should know what everybody needs to know. You should know what is relevant to check-ins, wrap-ups, staff meetings. Baby, I text you this morning my staff agenda. I'll give y'all a trick that has helped me. I keep an open document on staff meetings, my agenda items that I'm going to send, and I do it about 2 weeks ahead. There's a date right now. There's been July 30th has been on an open Google Doc that I've wrote. It's only 5 things, I think 4 or 5 things, but I've been working on it for 2 weeks and deleting it. When I have a conversation, I erase it, because there's no reason to talk about it when I've already talked about it with somebody. Preparedness is part of leadership. It's why you can't be running and sweeping floors and doing work with. I need you leading. This church needs you leading and thinking so that you can be a consistent communicator. Delegation. I keep an open document. I do that with my sermons. My major vision sermons, which are a big part of us. Vision Month, the document, what I'm preaching on Sunday, has been an open document, been changed 1 million times since last August. When do I start preparing for next Vision Month? There's already an August 2025 on my Google Drive. Now, I don't do that with every message. I do that with vision. Because vision is what drives. And our people have to be filled. They are not going to buy in if we all aren't doing it together. Mark killed mid-service yesterday. That's how you empower people to give. I can't be bold if I don't have people being bold around me. And so we have to be prepared to do that. We have to be prepared. Clear and effective meetings build a healthy and growing culture, which also means unclear and ineffective meetings do the opposite. That's why y'all see me every now and then. I know I sound rude. I'll cut off joking after a certain amount of time so that we can cut to the chase. Because I know Connor and everybody in here has a lot to do. And so even though I love wins, we need to spend more time on them than we do. We can't spend 45 minutes of a meeting on any day, on any week, every week doing that. Because y'all get behind, you get stressed out. What happens when you get stressed out? You're not as prepared. It means you don't communicate well. First thing to go is communication when you're tired and overwhelmed. So when I seem rude, just know I'm doing it for you. And so even wrap-ups in the day, it's 4 o'clock. We don't need to be getting out of here at 4:35 because we cut up for about 20 minutes of wrap-ups. I do it for you because consistency fuels fires, good fires. Or inconsistency fuels bad fires that burn down forests or churches. And so I want you to really, you got to be prepared, everything. You know, if I do a wedding of 5 people, I still work just as hard on my notes. Just as hard. So, matter of fact, some of the most stressful weddings are when they come up here and I get a call today. I've done some, not doing anymore, but done some where they come up here and I'll be there an hour. I need you. I'm like, oh my God, because I like to put effort into anything I do. If it's worth doing, it's worth putting effort into. You got to do that. What you communicate, who, your meetings, your conversations, individual. I mean, you never go to a lunch meeting where you're having an agenda and are leading somebody or need somebody to lead you. You know what? I already got questions for my meeting with Todd next week. He wanted to meet with me sooner because he knows that I got to preach some strong vision on Saturday to really fuel this fire and keep it going. He wants me to show up with my sermon notes and questions. The condition of Todd meeting with me is bring me your questions. I have an open document for the next Todd meeting. What are my questions right now with him are fundraising. We need to raise some money. You got to be prepared. You got to be able to think. You got to be able to talk, because talking's our job. Talking's our job. It's not all the running. It's the talking. It's our job is communicating, not just me. It's not just preaching. It's leading. And so consistent communication requires you. It requires you being prepared anytime you're leading anything. Leadership is messy no matter what. Just go ahead and get ready. It's going to be messy. It was for Jesus. It is for you. He says a servant's not above his master. It means what happened to him will happen to you. Leadership is messy no matter what, but it's much messier long term when you aren't direct and aren't consistent with directness. So you can't go around people. You can't hold back from people. Being direct creates a safe culture. Most people don't understand this. It hasn't clicked for them in our world. People shy away from conflict. They feel like it's unproductive. Oh my God, they're going to leave me. Being direct creates a safe culture. You have losses being direct. I want to clearly say that. We will have losses being direct, but you have casualties when you aren't. There is a difference between necessary losses and casualties. Necessary losses need to happen sometimes. Casualties happen because you didn't communicate consistently. We've had them here. I've been a part of them over the years. We all have. We've all been a part of some casualties in this church. Consistent communication and being direct is how we stop it. Because we can have losses, but not casualties. Even when it's messy, even when it's not easy to hear or to say, you have to say it. One of the things Angie and I, when we got married, first couple of years, she was like, I never want to shut the kids down. Well, sometimes they got to be shut down. Same in life. Sometimes they got to be shut down. Whether you stay or leave in this church, sometimes you got to be shut down. No. And we can't worry about, and in your life, friendships, man. I would still have some friends, or life would have been a lot less casualties if I'd have just said some hard conversation with my friends about 2 years before I did. Directness, long term, you have a lot less messiness. Leadership comes with messiness. You have a lot less when you're direct. Even long term you do. So you don't get to pray. As a leader here, I want everybody to know this. As a leader here, you don't get to pray a week about conversations you need to have. You don't get to just hope it gets better, or it gets a little better for a Sunday. You're like, maybe I can hold off on that. No, it's like a car. If you start hearing something, it ain't getting better until you fix it. That transmission starts slipping, transmission's going to keep slipping, and it's going to go out eventually. And so it's our job to fix the problems. It's our job. Even if it goes, and even if it does go away, let's just do an imaginary thing. What if a problem takes care of itself? The problem person leaves and it just takes care of itself. Let me tell you what it fixes. You still set a bad example, which builds an unhealthy culture that catches up to you in the form of chaos and conflict that could have been avoided by consistent communication. I know I said a lot there. Even if problems go away every now and then, you set a bad example and you build an unhealthy culture that catches up to you in the form of chaos and conflict that could have been avoided by consistent communication. Friendships burn down a lot with them when you go years without talking. So do marriages, so does families, so does businesses. It builds up and it builds up. And so even if a problem or two go away and you're like, well, it went away, Ben. It went away. Well, it's a terrible example. And long term, there's going to be some things that don't go away. They get worse and they burn things down and casualties happen. So two things we can't do. All of us are on one of these extremes when we get tired and frustrated. We either shut down or we show out. We can't do either as leaders. We can't shut down in conflict and when things get tough, and we can't show out. You can't stop engaging and you can't act a fool. Both stunt growth in a church or any relationship or anything you do worthwhile in life. So leadership is messy no matter what, but it's much messier long-term when you aren't direct and aren't consistent. Thirdly, what does it look like in our church? You can't run too fast and communicate effectively. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but this is probably the most urgent right now in our staff and leadership. Matter of fact, it is. We're starting to run too fast. All of us, including me. I've been worried about it, been seeing it the last couple weeks. I want you to know we have to slow down. We will stunt our growth. We will end up where we were last year if we don't slow down. I'm talking to everybody in this room and on this recording. We have to slow down. We are all running too fast. We're getting a lot done. We're going to crash and burn. Because you can't run too fast and communicate effectively. You know why? Because you're exhausted. And you're exhausted. Everybody's working your tail off. Thank you. Slow down. Slow down. We have to slow down or we will stunt our church growth, and which means we don't reach people and we don't grow the people we got. Here's why. You miss things that should be communicated, and you end up not on the same page with your staff, your teams, your people, and you miss each other. We miss each other, and we stop sharing things with each other, and we just miss things. And what happens is conflict builds up and eventually gets big, or something that we missed ends up getting bigger than we thought it would. And we end up losing 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 people. And we end up grieving that loss. And because we grieve that loss, we're more tired. We got to slow down, y'all. I'm thankful you guys are hard workers. I can't do lazy. Thank you. But we have to slow down. We have to be able to think clear. We have to think clear. We have to be able to think clear. I've done this. I'm talking this, a pot calling the kettle. I made all these mistakes in this facility. And then some. More than that. So I want you to know I'm going to share some things, because a couple things were missed this past week that affected us Sunday. And it was actually handled well because you've grown so much as leaders, but I want you to not repeat it. So I'm going to come to some of you, actually all of you on some things, I believe. I got them written down. That's why I can't remember. I write things down. Is that just small things that I want you to remember how important the small things are. Because when you're tired and you're running, you start missing things and it adds up. And so before it adds up in here, I'm going to talk to you about it because I want us to not repeat them. I want you to know, no, it's everybody. I want you to remember, I want you to remember this, because it's not because I'm mad. Matter of fact, I'm more proud of y'all than I've ever been. I'm more proud of even you, Angie and Connor, my wife, my son. I am so proud of y'all. But I want you to learn so that we can keep this growth going. And because if we don't manage it, it manages us. And
speaking the truth in love. Right?
Yes. I mean, it's the truth. It is the truth. I love y'all. I'm proud of y'all. So just know when I come to you sometime this week, know that it's very small, but we fix the small things and they don't add up. Or they don't pile up on us. And so, but as good as yesterday was, and it was, we're going to keep expanding and getting better at this. We're not going to stop. And so I want to, anyway, let me keep going. Yep. Also, when you're tired and running too hard, I want you to hear me. Communication and delegation get dropped when you're running too fast. You know why? Because you're overwhelmed. You got so much on you. And the first thing to get dropped is delegation and communication, because you're flying. You begin to fly again. And we will. And so you don't make the best decisions when you're running too fast. You don't. I want you to hear me here, because I'm about to transition with this to rest. It's a leadership discipline to work your schedule and to go home. Working over is an exception to the rule, not a weekly exception. It is, because that's a rule. It's the exception. We have to discipline ourselves, because you know what happens if we overwork? We build a culture of people that overwork, and they end up burning out of church and getting hurt, not because we didn't love them, because we set this example that's unsustainable. I'm the king of that, guys. I'm talking to you because hold me accountable to it. She did. The other night, she was in the shower. She said, I'm going to take a quick shower. So I went in there and started working. We're going to watch a movie. And she comes in there. She said, babe? I said, oh, I thought you were in the shower. She was dressed, ready, been waiting on me. I'm the king. I get it. I'm working through it. And so there's a lot to do. But it's a leadership discipline to work your schedule. Working over has to be an exception. We can't sustain growth by doing more. Us growing as a church doesn't mean us growing in how much we do. It means us delegating and leading more effectively, communicating more, relying on more people, training more people. Our time has to be better. There is not one more thing Connor can do, Bradford can do. You are maxed.
I got one thing for you.
Yeah, the Bradford jokes about that a lot. You are, every one of you, including me, we are maxed out.
Leadership discipline, say that.
It is a leadership discipline. It's a leadership discipline to work your schedule and go home, to stick to your plan and your schedule, and to rest when you aren't here. We can't sustain growth. So you don't communicate well enough. You don't communicate enough, and you don't communicate effectively when you're exhausted and stretched thin. Cloudy brains. I've heard that said a lot. Bradford, you said, I've been cloudy 2 weeks. I know exactly why you've been cloudy this. So it's not anything other than, not even the stuff you've been through in trauma. It's you've been going too hard and not delegating and leading enough. And you've dropped some things, communicating because of it. Because you can't do it all. We are all maxed out. The answer is not more work. You guys are the hardest workers I know. It's not more work. It's more leadership. And there's a way to do it. It's a science. It's an art. And it can be done. Church, a room this size makes all the calls for Amazon. Biggest company in the world. Richest man in the world that owns it. So board, his rule is to lead a company, no matter the size, is if 2 large pizzas aren't enough to feed them, you got too many people in the room. And he leads an entire company that's worldwide that way. We got to lead. This church is medium size. Yeah, it's hard. We can lead. We can do it. We got to lead. And so what that means is we got to rest. So when you're overwhelmed, you guys have seen me on stage. Talk about cloudy. When you said that, I told you that couple times last few weeks. Y'all see me on stage. You know me. People may think that was a great sermon. You know when I'm tired and frustrated. I'm cloudy because I overdid it that week. Like I told Angie this morning, I said, I'm so thankful I only got one lunch meeting. I can really focus on the staff this week. I've been over planning lunch meetings lately. Productive meetings, too much meetings. And so we got overworking. I want you to write this down. It's very important because it's a whole different paradigm shift. Overworking is lazy leadership. It has changed my life. I stay in the bed even if I can't get up an hour longer. And it does not feel like hard work, but I have learned it is lazy leadership. Overworking. Lazy leadership. When you're overwhelmed and have more than you can handle and get done, you know what you do? You communicate it to the team. And here's what will happen. When you're not able to get everything done, we shouldn't find out because you didn't get it done. We should find out because you brought it to the table. And 2 things will happen. And it's not you working over because you couldn't get it done. It's not, because that doesn't impress me. I'm thankful you can work your tail off. Doesn't impress me. I want to see how much you can lead, how many people you can include. And so doesn't impress anybody that's a leader, actually. When you're overwhelmed and can't get it done, you don't wait till you pop and you're frustrated after a month of being overwhelmed. You actually tell people, hey, tell the team, this is your team, and Terry and all of us here in the week, Mark. And so you communicate, I can't get all this done. I need some help. 2 things will happen. We will either get a plan together to get it done and get it done together. Bible says there's a wisdom in a multitude of counsel. When you are tired, it means you need more people around you to tell you the best way to do it so that you can get it done. Or the second thing is, I care about y'all so much, we'll downsize what we do. That baptism yesterday, if Connor would have come to me and said, I'm overwhelmed, we would downsize that service. Still been beautiful. That's how much you matter. So much your longevity matters. So much your leadership matters. This job is significantly harder than a labor job. Don't care how hard the labor is. It just sneaks up on you and bites you, the fatigue. You end up making a fool of yourself, or you don't even feel like you want to do it anymore because leadership takes a toll on you way more than a physical labor job does. But it's all in here. It's your brain, your heart, your soul. So when you're overwhelmed and you have more than you could do, everybody should know, so we come together and do it together. Or we talk about what can we. So we can't do what we want. We do what we can, right? Which means we downsize so that you can have an off day and so that you can enjoy your family. Okay? So we can't run too fast and communicate effectively. You matter. You matter so much, and you have to rest. What rest is, I want you to know, Dr. Wes Beavis taught me and Angie a lot. Let me tell you what resting is. It isn't making memories and going on trips. Trips that aren't restful are making memories. There's a difference. You go running with your family, beach vacations, that's not rest. Rest are moments where you're not a parent, where you're not studying the Word even, It's where you can sit and rest, and you have to ask your spouse to honor that. They are not going to understand the heaviness of this job. You can't expect them to. And they're never going to be here probably unless they are. Until they are, they won't understand it. You have to say, I need this time. I need this time. Whatever that looks like in your schedule, if you're not resting and recharging, you are going to cripple yourself as a leader and a person and a child of God. And so you got to rest, and you got to have some hard conversations if that's what it takes. We all have had.
Make more space for that one.
Yeah. So hard things. So you got to have times. Lastly, or one of the last, consistent and clear communication leads to a greater and growing community. So be clear with what you're asking people and why. Don't ever give an ask without a why. All the way down to before Connor was running out singing at the 10:15, I wanted everybody to know. Y'all saw what I asked or what I told everybody before Connor ran out? I said, hey, I want y'all to know, all you volunteers, we want to do this for you because we care about you. That was very intentional. Why is Connor getting an acoustic and coming singing a song? Because we care about y'all. That's why. I don't care from why we clean the toilets on the cleaning team. Why? Why do we do it? We have to give why. So band, y'all know, I knew the band meeting a few weeks was going to be messy. But you know what I also knew? Which is why I wanted everybody there and it was mandatory. I knew there was people like this guy, JD, who had been a part of 2 churches that didn't fight for him. They were honest with him about his defects probably, but they didn't fight for him around him. And I wanted him, and there were others in that room that I wanted to see, no matter how messy it got, no matter who left, who didn't, that everybody was going to see we mean business and we will fight for you and we will be honest with you. Set a precedent. When you said it a minute ago before we got started 2 weeks ago, it's helped the band. You know, it did. Honesty, directness. And everybody, JD trusts us more than he did before that meeting. He loves us, but how we do things is builds trust. He knows that I'm not just going to come to him when he's a problem. I'm going to come to him when somebody's a problem around him. We have to be honest and direct no matter what it costs us. So consistent. You got to be consistent. All teams. That goes for all teams. Everything. Kids, youth, all of it. If you don't enforce and follow up consistently with what you communicate, it's for naught. You can communicate well, but if you're not consistent in following up, it's for naught.
Can you say that one more time?
If you don't enforce and follow up consistently with what you're communicating and asking, it is for naught. I don't care how clear you communicate if you don't enforce it and follow up when people don't do it. Or, when people don't honor what they committed to. It's not that you're trying to boss and control people. They committed to it. And I'll explain why I mean that. It goes for everyone. It goes for each other. Somebody in this room doesn't do what you ask. And they said they were. If you don't have an honest conversation with them, it's for naught. Member leadership flows down. So that culture of chaos flows down and lack of communication flows down. We have to, you can't overthink if you're going to make people mad. If you're leading, you will make people mad. Angie had a lunch with a leader in another church who had been leading for years now last week. And she sat down in Bangkok and she told her, it was kind of awkward because she said, this person over here, just want you to know, they hate my guts. One of the most well-respected women in this community and church leadership. She said, that she sat down next to somebody hates my guts. You are going to make people mad if you're leading. But if you're leading, or if you're going to make people mad, but if you're leading, you're going to make the right people mad. If you're not leading, you're going to make good people mad. We have tough conversations consistently and quickly. You don't get to pray about it. I want to remind you. You don't get to pray about it and think about it. And it's not a sermon. Directness is not a sermon. It's not diplomatic. It's very clear and honest because clarity is the goal. When you don't and aren't, chaos and stress build on the backs of good people. And you have casualties instead of losses. So when we aren't clear and consistent with our communication and following up and making sure chaos and stress, it builds on the back of good people and you have casualties instead of losses. You lose good help instead of the bad help that probably is going to leave eventually anyway. Because when people aren't growing, they're going to find a way to make the people that are challenging them to grow, the bad guy. That's just a part of it. So it comes. This is why they killed Jesus. It's why it is. So you have the wrong, you hurt the wrong people and more people when you aren't consistent in communication. Give you some wise wisdom on how to do that and make it easier for you. A wise way to approach conflict is by asking questions first before you make accusations. I probably should have put that in your notes, but I didn't. It'll help you. A wise way to approach conflict is by asking questions first before you make accusations. Things like, why did you do that? Why did you do it that way? Why didn't you do it the way I asked? Questions better unearth things that need to be dealt with while keeping unity. Okay? Jesus said what? Out of the abundance of the heart, out of the abundance of the mouth, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Goodness gracious. Yes, yeah, apparently. The heart tells on itself. The heart tells on itself. That's the point. The heart tells on itself. Ask people questions before you make accusations. They'll tell on themselves. I got that with some wise advice I got years ago, and Todd reminded me of that. Questions, people tell on themselves. The heart can't help but tell on itself. That's what Jesus says in Luke 6 that I couldn't quote because I was thinking, am I going to quote King Jimmy or am I going to quote NLT? Either way. Celebrate wins. These last two go together. Celebrate wins and your people consistently. You want to talk about a culture that'll keep fueling fire? Celebrate wins, gratitude, write letters, give them a candy bar. We need to do that here more. I'm talking to me. Candy bar card that says, what they mean to you. Dote over individuals in front of everybody. I don't care if Bradford don't like it. I talked to Scott Kaiser last night, even though Bradford wouldn't give me his number. I've invited everybody. I've invited Laura's family that I get in touch with. You know why? Because Bradford is going to get celebrated on August 11th when he gets ordained. Because you know what? Bradford celebrates people. We're going to celebrate him. Consistency. We celebrate our people. If you ain't going to accept celebration, you need to give it and accept it. Give and receive. And so we have to dote over people, and we do it regularly, not just cards. We when we can, we say it in front of a group. Recognize and celebrate excellence. Clean bathrooms. Youth umbrellas. I want to give a shout out to Will because I know he's going to be listening later. The dude gave all the youth umbrellas and said, go get them with the rain. Seven girls didn't have a choice. And Will came to me. He said, I just want to let you know I did this. I said, go take pictures because we need to post this at some point. We want to celebrate them youth over social media. We have to be, those are the things as leaders we have to constantly be doing and thinking. Thoughtfulness, that's why you challenge me. Your thoughtfulness challenges me. If we want to build a culture of gratitude, we don't have to give people $1 million. A payday. That's what Todd Wright said one time. He said a payday says a lot. I love paydays. That's why when he said that, that speaks my love language. I said, I love paydays.
$100,000
yeah.
grant too.
Yeah, $100,000. Yeah, I can't give you. Yeah, there it is. You can give $100,000. I can't give you $100,000. I'll give you a candy bar $100,000. No, we love people. We have to love people well. And if you're tired and overwhelmed and not committed, you don't love people well, and your people won't serve you. And they're serving Jesus, not you. They won't serve with you. And so we have to constantly recognize and celebrate excellence. Be thinking, shout out that 10-15. Those are the things you need to plan. When you don't show up ready for the 10-15, you're missing opportunities to celebrate your people. And individually, we get a chance to celebrate 5 individuals every week at 10-15. Easy with our faithful church family. Just have to think about it. We have to think as a team. Thank you. Well, we got to be ready and clear. What we can't do is one person talk 5 minutes, and that's what we do a lot. I do it too. It's me. We have to be very concise and succinct because you know what? People are coming earlier and earlier. So that's why Sunday, the baptism, I was like, that's why I said we got to have a shorter meeting. People are coming. We got to be ready for them. And so we do have to be more concise, but we got to be prepared. And so we have to thank people, be thinking, celebration at all times, shout outs. And here's the thing. When you shout people out, you say why it matters. In the same way I said you don't ask a question, you don't ask something of somebody without giving a why. You don't celebrate somebody without saying why it's important. What does that do? It feeds vision. Because everybody else will start saying, I need to do this. We all do this. We're human. That's how we work. And so when you shout out somebody, you say why it's important. social media post, if it's a shout out anywhere in life, whatever, you say, hey, man, I watched them take this kid because their parents had 7 kids. I watched them take them to the tree house. That family felt loved and thought of, even though there were a couple hundred people here and running around the lobby. They felt loved. That's why. And guess what? You build a culture of people that's the expectation. And you don't even do it by asking them. You do it by celebrating the people that are doing it. Mm-hmm. We got to celebrate our people. And how we do that is we do it in front of people. I make Bradford give me Scott Kaiser's number. When he doesn't, because I want Bradford to feel celebrated. I'm building a culture here. We're building a culture. We're culture builders, every one of them. I told him, he didn't send me Scott's number. He said, I'm going to get it anyway. And I did.
I knew you get it.
I knew I did. And so lastly, don't superficially encourage people. Okay? Don't just say, good job, son. When I tell Garrett or anybody, good job, I want to tell why. Connor, Jacob, any of them, Sarah, communicate deep gratitude, which means you give the why it made a difference, why I'm proud of you. Don't just say, thank you for taking out the trash, Garrett. Say, thank you for taking out the trash. I see you working hard. I see you cutting the grass yesterday. I see you cutting the grass. I see you working. I see you growing up. I gave him the why because I see you working hard. God's going to bless it and honor it. Why? I see you. Man, you sang that song, JD, man, I'm telling you straight up, like deep gratitude. Like 2,000 people saw expand. I mean, I didn't tell anybody but Connor this. I talked to a pastor last week. I'm doing a men's conference at the end of September in Anniston for a pastor. He's been watching us 5 years, said our model. We're building our model after y'all's ministry model. He turned down jobs in Carrollton because it wasn't churches he wanted to be a part of. And so he told me, I've been watching, he said, I have seen the growth of all your social media. I've seen the growth from Instagram at all. You know why? Somebody sees it growth and expansion because he sees Connor putting the effort into it. So pastors are watching and having an example of what growth and changing is, because 5 years ago versus now, our social media is 10 million levels better. Why? Why do we celebrate it? So when we give deep gratitude, not just surface encouragement, we share why it matters. We share why I appreciate you. We go deeper. So I'm going to do that before we finish now. Tammy, I said it yesterday. I'm going to say it again. You were probably the best person in my life at loving people right now. Like, you've challenged me. Yes, there's some things I see. I got to sit you down and make sure you get rest. But man, there's also some things I could up my game. You know how to love people. You are so thoughtful. Some of these gifts and small things, you're just thoughtful, very thoughtful. You're always thinking of other people. Bradford, your leadership. You don't realize it. You're constantly saying you're not qualified. Dude, you on the stage, Ben, you know so much about the Bible. You know about the gospel. You know about the gospel. And you know the power of God. And you invested in me long before. I mean, and so your leadership here, how much you're growing, you're finally not punching a clock. You're getting to lead people and you thrive in it. You're always going to learn. I've had to learn. I'm still learning because I still do it. But like, you're learning how to rest and how to rearrange life and be a leader and not just a doer. But you are doing it, and it has affected our growth. This growth is very connected to the last 4 or 5 months. You just figured out what you do, and you do it, and you're growing in it. And you're going to you're going to build even more influence when you preach in September. You will, because they listen to the people on the platform a little bit more. And that's why you need to be on a platform, because you're a leader that can handle it. And you are literally affecting our church. I mean, eternal fruit that ain't even here yet because of what you're doing today in the last several months. Baby, I can't tell you how proud of you. I thought I loved you a lot 6 months ago. Like, I mean, it's unreal, the growth. Just like you stepped right off that leadership, you stepped right all the way as a parent. I mean, you saw Garrett was being disrespectful and used it about 3 times, and I unload on any of the kids that they get about 2 or 3 times. And then I unload. I go Van Bonner on them. Not that bad, but it's bad. Not the gun. But like, no, I don't pull guns. I don't say cuss words. I shouldn't say that on this record. But either way, I try not to say cuss words too much. But no, Angie just recognized it, and she called him down before we went to Atlanta, and I heard her in there talking to him in a way that should, and he came in there and apologized to me. We have had over the years, I've said, I need you fighting for me, because I know I'm the communicator of the family, but sometimes I feel like you hold back because you don't want to hurt him. And I mean, she's doing that church-wide, stepping out of the front of the patio and saying, they got it. Man, that's leadership. That's how you build something bigger than where we are. I mean, it's amazing. I see it. The connection you're doing. You're texting people, saying when you're not here, like you're saying, hey, we miss you, love you. It's more than just Ben. Connor, man, I'll be honest with you. About a year ago, I told Mark, I said, I think his leadership is we need to put him in a position of just creative arts, long-term music. He's going to thrive there. He's going to probably be famous if we can build the church, but I just don't know how much leadership he can handle. You proved me wrong. Your leadership is on new levels the last 3 months. I mean, you have hit things quickly that you were terrified 6 months ago. And I get it. I was too at your age. I mean, I was too at the age you are. I mean, I was until I was 30, in my 30s, and you ain't even there yet.
But if you need something to do, I can give it to you.
And so just like, I can't tell you how proud I've always loved your love for the Lord. I mean, you love God. You've never wavered in the worst seasons life can bring at you. But now I see you leading people to that type of maturity because you're not afraid to be honest, even if it means we lose them for a season or forever. You're willing to tell the truth. You're willing to stand for what God's leading the catalyst. And so your songs are going to reach a lot of people, but your leadership are going to bring a lot of people to Jesus, aside from the songs. I could keep going. Terry, I see how quick. I know I'm trying. I can't hit everybody on recording, but Terry's not here right now. Terry, you are investing, and I see you empowering your leaders. I see you saying no a lot, saying yes a lot more, and no a lot less. And it is going to pay dividends. I'm proud of you. I love you. I know you're a mama and starting over, and that's hard too. I could go JD. I mean, your gifts and abilities. You're in your lane right now. Like you are in your lane. You are in your lane, and it is amazing. You are one of the best at what you do, as far as who I know. And so, and I mean, I could go on Mark. Is it Mark? You're a blessing. I don't know what we do without your organizational mindset in this church. I mean, I could get Carrie. Your anointing's just getting started. Will and Sarah, see you growing. I'm trying to remember everybody, but that's the thing is we got so many wonderful people growing. I can't. And we ain't seen nothing yet. So let's keep moving. Let's keep growing. God's going to blow our minds. I love all of you, and I'm very thankful for you. Thankful.